Welcome to Uncovered. It's Wednesday. I'm Anthony, he's Ron, and we are about to uncover the MAGA propaganda not covered by the mainstream and corporate media. Ron, you're looking fantastic today, glowing as ever. Let's start by discussing Natalie Harp. For people that don't know, because this is a new name to kind of enter politics, she's been around for a while. This is, of course, Donald Trump's personal aide, special best friend. I mean, is she the reason that we haven't seen much of Melania? Is there a kind of love triangle, jealousy going on, do you think? Because there's been lots of questions as to where Melania Trump is at the moment. But Natalie Harp was thrust into the spotlight recently through John Ossoff and a mention that he put in one of his rally speeches in Atlanta, I think. And so that then caused a response from the White House, like high-speed response team. They went a bit over the top, and now everyone's talking about Trump and Natalie Harp. Have I got that right?
Yeah, it was a kind of the old Streisand effect, which is what kind of a slang term in social media, where back in the day, where I think what it was, she posted a picture of her home or something in Malibu, and then she didn't want people talking about where she lived, and then it became a big thing. That's sort of been that on steroids here. Anybody who's watched this show for a while knows that we have talked about Natalie Harp for a long time, going all the way back to his trial in New York, where she became a subject of that trial, because she was continuously handing him papers and he would be flipping through and everybody was wondering what exactly was going on. Who was she? I recognized her, but I couldn't place it where. And then I realized she was an OAN host who had left and went to work as Trump's personal assistant. And that's when she got the nickname, the human printer, for printing out all those articles. Then it was later revealed that she had access to his True Social account, and that came out through court papers. So we've been talking about her and the unusual relationship for a long time. And then the book came out by Haberman and Jonathan Swan, where they added a few more details, which made it even more strange. Some of the things that she said about him became clear that this is sort of a cult-like situation where she just worships him. How she got the job. She slept in the locker room at Bedminster to be closer to him, talking about how he means everything to her. She doesn't appear to have any boyfriend or relationship. It appears like her entire life is Trump. So, and then you have the situation, but then the other thing that's odd is Trump has never talked about her ever, never mentions her name, never posts about her. So that's also odd. Somebody who comments about everyone and everything in his orbit never, ever brings her up. So that's strange. Then Ossoff, just a relatively harmless line. I mean, I took notice of it. I think I was actually the very first person on Twitter who posted about that line, because I went back and checked. I actually posted about that 6 minutes after it was said. and all I said was, wow, Ossoff mentioned traveling with Natalie Harp.
Yeah.
Because no Democratic politician, as far as I know, has ever mentioned her name before. And I think that the reaction of the right, which, the reaction to the left at first was very muted. It was me and a handful of other people were like, ooh, Natalie Harp, because we followed this saga between him and her for a long time. But when the right went, and Trump's people, the rapid reaction MAGA accounts and White House accounts went absolutely crazy, attacking him, claiming that they were having an affair when he never said that at all. He never said anything close to that. The over-the-top reaction by the right made it threw gasoline on the fire and just made it more suspicious. Why are they so paranoid about this relationship? Because also the New York Times book mentioned how Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, has been very concerned about this relationship and how they are together just 24/7 everywhere he goes. Also, what threw gasoline on the fire was the fact that when he could only choose a tiny handful of people to take with him off Air Force One,
Yep.
And he left his Treasury Secretary behind, his Secretary of State behind, but he took Natalie Harp as one of the small handful of people to go in the catering truck. So
he left his press secretary, of course.
There.
He left his press secretary behind, and she's resigned as a result of it. So there's, there's clearly a little bit of a kind of love triangle there as well. Everybody vying for Donald Trump's attention. I just want to play, before I play the John Ossoff clip, I just want to play this clip of Natalie Harp from a few years ago, because she was I'll say news in the loosest terms. She was on these far right news channels as a host. She's very beautiful. She's very personable. She's clearly very smart. Let's take a look.
We can't talk about winning back the House and Senate in 2022 and the White House in 2024 if we don't act on the fact that we actually did win the White House and the Senate in 2020. We shouldn't be afraid to say that, because it's true. We the people know America, as we know it, could be ending in the next 2 or 4 years, which is exactly what President Trump is warning of. They think if they can get President Trump, they can get the 75 million people to shut up and stand down. And as President Trump said at CPAC yesterday, each of us, if we haven't already, have a decision to make. Not in 2022 at the ballot box, but right here and right now, to choose a side. And by the way, sidelines don't count. It just shows how desperate the Democrats were to find the votes to make up for President Trump's insurmountable lead. And they can be summed up in 2 words: Trump won. President Trump says nothing's easy, but who wants nothing? Certainly not us. For above all else, we want to save America. President Trump is right. We don't have the luxury to sit back and wait. This is not an off year or in between year. This is the year we decide that.
Yeah, I'm going to take back what I just said about her being very smart, because she just demonstrated to me in that she is clearly, brainwashed by the cult. And this is unfortunately an area that people don't really talk about very much, and that is that the amount of brainwashing that goes on in these circles, that these people do live in a bubble. And I was reading up on Natalie Harp's family history, and she had cancer and she lost her father, and I think she used an experimental drug because Trump had just signed that into law, and so that kind of helped her to improve, and so she thanked him for saving her life. And then he's like a father figure, but he's also a narcissist, let's not forget. And so a narcissist can control somebody like her in the most incredible ways that you would never really know. You have to really dig quite deep into understanding this narcissistic personality disorder to know how someone like Trump can have a hold over someone like Natalie Harp.
It's clear she's very deep in the cult. That's the whole point of that clip, is she's obsessed with Trump. She talks about him in godlike terms and talks about how much he means to her. I don't know if they're having any kind of intimate relationship. I mean, who knows? All I know is the relationship is very odd. It's very strange. They're together late into the evening, early in the morning. She's everywhere he goes, everywhere he travels. And you know who's not? Melania Trump. We haven't seen Melania Trump in over a month. She didn't go to the last, what was the last ceremony that he did? It was either the dignified transfer or it was something like that. I think that's what it was. Yeah. Yes, it was a dignified transfer, or it was Lindsey Graham's funeral, one of the two, right, where Melania was not there and Natalie Harp was by his side wearing the all black and very somber. And it's just like she's ever present. And we know his history. We know what he's like. We know he's cheated on every relationship he's ever been involved in and the last one he cheated on was the last time that we know of was the Stormy Daniels relationship. And by the way, as an aside, Natalie Harp looks an awful lot like a young Stormy Daniels. So I'll just make that point as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I doubt very much if he's sexually active, but because obviously he shits his pants all the time, and he's clearly got health issues. But I do think she's more his carer.
Saying that.
Yeah.
Ossoff was just saying that he travels all over the world and is obsessed with his ballroom and his war and everything. And he's traveling the world with this personal assistant for some reason. And I'll point out also the post that he made a long time ago, or several months ago, depicting the Obamas as apes.
Yes.
That came from Natalie Harp. We know that. Yes. She was the one who put that meme in front of him, and he said, go ahead and post it. So she's behind because people inside the White House have complained that most of the horrible, crazy, bizarre posts that Trump has made over the last couple of years have come from her.
Interesting. She went to Liberty University, which is one of these kind of far-right kind of God Squad universities where they indoctrinate you into the Christian nationalism in a way that... Because I tried to debate a guy who was also a former AON host one time who was from Liberty University too, similar age to her, and I just could not make any sense of him whatsoever. He was absolutely imperative with his views on all of the hot button issues from abortion to everything else. And we have to understand that we take for granted our normalcy in a kind of westernized, civilized society. But there are people who walk amongst us who have been brainwashed and indoctrinated into far-right nationalism from childhood. Through their parentage, but through their household politics, but also through these types of universities.
Yeah, and look, she holds a tremendous amount of power. What are the reasons for the incredible overreaction here by the right, by Republicans? Well, one reason is because she's the gatekeeper. She controls all access to him. If you want to get your meme posted or your tweet retweeted by Trump, it is a very, very big deal among these social media influencers.
Yes.
When they get Trump to retweet a video that they did or a meme that they put together, that makes them money. That's a huge deal for like a Benny Johnson or a Cat Turd or somebody like that. She's the one who controls it all. And they know that. And they have her number. So many of these people have her phone number, have her email. And when they want to get something in front of Trump, they don't send it to Trump. They send it to Natalie Harp. So she has a tremendous amount of power. So when her name is brought up, I think that's one reason why that they've all gone crazy to try and defend her. But I think another reason is Jon Ossoff.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that if it was done by somebody else, I don't think it would have been as big a deal because other people have brought up her name before. But the fact that Ossoff is someone that they are very afraid of, and they're very afraid of him, not just in 2026. I mean, he's going to win that Georgia election. The only question is
he is a future president.
They're worried about him in 2028.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's somebody who they view as an Obama-like figure in the Democratic Party, who really, if you look at all the people that are names have been out there running for president in 2028, we can go right down the line. I can give you a list of critiques that different Democratic groups have of that candidate. Every single one of them has a group of Democrats that doesn't like them for one particular reason or another, except Ossoff. I cannot think of any group of Democrats of any significant number that don't like him or have an issue with him about something. And so that's another reason why he is an enormous threat. It's very much like an Obama situation. He's I think the most effective communicator at taking on Trump and taking down Trump. They have no dirt on him. He's a family man. He works hard. He goes home to his family. He has no scandals. And so I think this is their first opportunity to try and go after him and claim that he's some kind of misogynist or something like that. But the thing is, if you look at his staff over the years, I mean, his staff, he's had a tremendous number of women on his staff that he's promoted in advance. So, I mean, trying to claim that like he's some kind of sexist or misogynist person, simply because he pointed out that Trump and Natalie Harp travel constantly together is pretty weak, but their overreaction shows how afraid they are of him.
Let's take a look at the clip of him at this rally where he uses Natalie Harp's name. And just look out for what a great orator he is too.
And there's something uniquely despicable about lying a nation into war. Treating citizens as fools and those who serve as pawns. Aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, they've now been at sea for 240 plus days without a port call. It's a Navy record. And still they serve with excellence. And still they serve with excellence. God bless the sailors, Marines, aviators, and all aboard the United States ship Abraham Lincoln. See, they don't expect luxury. They'll endure hardship. But they deserve competent leaders who send them into combat only when necessary, and with decisive clarity of purpose, not fools who lie about the purpose and progress of war. And while the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Burn. He's very good. He's very good. And I think, that line about Natalie is the least of the Republicans' problems.
Yeah, but that was very calculated. And, everything that you read about his campaign is that he doesn't have handlers or consultants that write his speeches or tell him what to do or craft his strategy. John Ossoff controls everything. He controls every word of his speeches. He controls everything this campaign does, all the messaging. That's one reason why it's very good. So for him to add that line about Natalie, I think was a calculated thing. And as a result, he has gotten millions and millions and millions of views on that speech, which included that clip right there, included a magnificent takedown of Trump.
Yeah.
Taking him down in ways that no other Democrats does as well. I mean, Schumer could never give that speech. Jeffries could never give that speech. I mean, it's just not even in the same ballpark in terms of quality and authenticity. It's not a bunch of slogans. It's not a bunch of platitudes. It's not a bunch of focus group tested, talking points. That's what we typically get from
he's
Democratic
off
leadership these days.
He's not reading it. He's
just because he wrote it. I mean, this is his own words.
Yeah.
So I think he did that to get attention, and it worked. He got millions and millions of views on that speech, which was a very substantive, heavy speech. But since he added the one little throwaway line about Natalie to needle Trump, it resulted in him becoming national news for like 72 hours straight.
National hero.
And I think he knew exactly that it was going to happen that way. And I thought it was brilliant. So they can all cry. It's funny for people who support Donald Trump and who have voted for him 3 times, despite all the misogyny, all the allegations, the way he treats female reporters, the way he treats his spouses, the way he treats women, the way he treated people in his beauty pageants. I mean, We can go on, and the way he talked about Ivanka in a disgusting way, Epstein stuff. We could go on and on and on. For the people who support Donald Trump to pretend to be outraged now about misogyny because of that line, it's just the height of stupidity and hypocrisy. And you can see in their faces and you can hear in their voices how they don't mean it, how it's just so fake. I mean, Scott Jennings goes out there on his podcast. I watched that thing where he was ranting about Ossoff. It was the worst acting performance I have seen since Kevin Sorbo's last movie. It was it was just, it's so obviously phony and fake. It's laughable.
Well, let's look at the clip of the reporters asking Donald Trump the question about John Ossoff saying that you'd rather travel with Natalie Harp than do your job as president. Let's take a look.
Yesterday, John Ossoff said you'd rather travel with your aide, Natalie Harp, and build the ballroom than do your job as president. What is your response to John Ossoff?
You mean Pee Wee Herman? Pee Wee Herman lookalike? No, I would much rather do other things. We're building a great facility here. We're fixing a White House that hasn't been taken care of. You can look at this. This room was a disgraceful situation, the Oval Office.
Yeah, well, nice diversion tactics there, Mr. President.
I mean, I thought that was very interesting because first time he's ever asked about Natalie Harp by the press.
Yeah.
And he immediately changes the subject. And by the way, Ossoff, and then he denies that he's like not obsessed with the ballroom. Literally, he spent the entire day today.
Yeah.
The entire day today at the construction site of the ballroom, the helipad, taking the Newsmax crew around, showing them everything, talking about the marble, the tile, the floor, the concrete, every little detail he's involved in this. So, I mean, and then he's at the same time, he's claiming, I'm not obsessed with the ballroom. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's literally how he spent his entire day today on the ballroom. So I thought that was also quite interesting. And the fact that he changed the subject immediately, as soon as her name is brought up.
Yeah.
And one more thing, Ossoff said this 4 days ago.
That's right.
It was Saturday night.
Yeah.
Here we are 4 days later. This has gone viral. This is all everybody is talking about on the right, MAGA, Fox News. And yet Trump, the man who posts about everything, 50, 60 posts a day on True Social, has posted nothing about Ossoff, nothing about that speech, nothing about him bringing up Natalie Harp, hasn't said a single word about that speech. At a time when everyone in the political world is talking about this, Donald Trump hasn't said a word. That should tell you quite a lot.
Well, it actually tells me that he is under pressure maybe from Melania, not to mention Natalie Harp, because she's the only person, for those of us that are married anyway, we understand a little bit of the dynamic. But if she's insecure, there's a chance that she's saying to him, fine, if you want her around, that's fine, but I do not want her name uttered from your mouth. Because he is clearly henpecked, and he doesn't spend much time with Melania, as we know. But when he does, I think he gets a mouthful every time.
Well, because he's more afraid of Melania than any person in the world.
Correct. I mean, and that's why I suggest
that terrified of Melania.
She's the one with the leverage.
Melania knows all of his secrets, his darkest secrets, the things that he's said about people, the things that he's done,
the Epstein
things
stuff
that none of us even know about. But she knows everything. Yeah. And if she ever decided to do a tell-all book or interview, it would be over for him.
It cost him a fortune.
She could wreck him.
Yeah,
and so that's why she has complete control over him for that reason.
Let's look at this clip of Natalie Harp's estranged brother, because he says he thinks that his sister got close to Trump because she's his biggest fan, and she thinks that he saved her life with regard to what I was saying earlier about this change in legislation over experimental drugs. Let's take a look.
You guys grew up in the same home, the same family, so you understand where she's coming from in a way that no one else does.
Yeah.
What do you think drew her to him?
Not her.
Yeah.
Well, my mom raised us with the idea that American exceptionalism was the correct way of looking at things, that the United States is the boss of the world, that, like, you know, slavery was back then, that was normal. People weren't bad because they had slaves. And honestly, and it's like Trump wants to take all those books out of schools. He wants to rewrite history. And so, like, I think that my sister, unfortunately, didn't break out of that delusion that my mom raised us with. And Trump is like everything that my mom taught us to respect. So I think that's where her infatuation for Trump comes from, honestly, because I don't think it's a physical attraction. Let's get real, you know, like, personally, I don't think so.
So when you use the word infatuation, I understand your point about, you know, the nature of it. I mean, she obviously is his assistant. They call her the human printer, right? She prints everything. She takes his social media dictation. She accompanies him on almost every trip, including when he goes to Mar-a-Lago or his golf club in New Jersey on the weekends. And she was, of course, Preston, as we're all now aware, one of the very few people who did not include the Secretary of State or Treasury that Trump took off Air Force One via that catering truck. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that, if you're really friends and loyal to your team, why would you just go peace out and take another airplane when you think the other airplane's going to get shot down? Like,
what do you think it is about her? I mean, what do you make of how much the president relies on her? We've learned a lot, you know, I mean, from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan's new book, we've learned, right, about his incredible reliance on her at all hours of the day to post social media posts, just as one example.
Yeah. I think that Trump's best friends are people who are his fan club, you know? Like, and so she's his biggest fan. And so that's probably why he likes her. And like, she's good looking. She's got a good personality. Like, I don't know.
I want to ask you, Preston, about something
she thinks that he saved her life. So, like, somebody living with that kind of gratitude, that must feel pretty good.
Fascinating, really, isn't it? So many things to say here. I just want to go back to this relationship with the narcissist because, and I want people to kind of make the effort to really understand quite how deep this goes, because we're just speculating about, you know, their relationship. And as he said, you know, I don't think there's a sexual relationship here, but that's the first place that people go when they think about it because of Trump's history with young, beautiful women, but also
because of him, not because of her.
Correct, because of him.
Yeah.
But you know, he's 80 years of age now, right? He needs a carer. He needs someone who's not going to drop him. He needs someone he can trust. And the narcissist can control a woman in a relationship, whether it's a sexual relationship or a platonic relationship, with a destructive cycle of emotional manipulation to gain their trust and gain their power. Starts with heavy praise and affection. Then it turns to criticism and isolation and gaslighting, and it's called love bombing. And so anybody who takes an interest in this topic understands not just the relationship potentially between Trump and Natalie, but also the relationship between Trump and all of the MAGA Republicans who still support him.
I think it's a two-way street because we know about Trump that one of his biggest weaknesses is the fact that he's so susceptible to flattery.
Yeah.
That when sometimes even like his worst enemies can, if they flatter him for 5 minutes, all of a sudden everything's better again.
Well, Mark Carney just did that yesterday, right?
Exactly. And like Trump is going on Michael Cohen's radio show this week.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is a guy who testified against him in a criminal trial that led to his conviction for felonies. And now he's going on his radio show because for the last 6 months or so, Cohen has been saying nice things about Trump. So now they're pals again.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the fact that she flatters him so much and worships him and praises him and talks about how much he means to her, I think that that causes her to also have some measure of control over him. I mean, New York Times is out with a new story today where they got a hold of a letter that she sent to him.
That's right.
While the two of them were in Scotland recently, when he on his trip to Scotland. And this is how she signed off the letter.
Yeah, I want things to always be right between us. I also know I've been distracted all week, forgetting to eat throughout the days, and even forgetting to sleep, and only catching a couple of hours at a time. The letter concludes, with all my heart, Natalie.
The letter was about the fact that she was running after his golf cart on the golf course.
Because it goes faster than the others.
Following him around the golf course.
Right.
And she wrote him a letter afterwards saying, I hope I didn't embarrass you in front of people on the golf course when I was chasing after you, running around. And that's how she signed off the letter. And by the way, how is it that the New York Times is getting all this information about their relationship?
Yeah.
Clearly, there's a very limited number of people who have access to her letter to Trump. And so there are clearly people very close to Trump in his inner circle who are very concerned about this, and concerned about her, concerned about this relationship. And they are leaking things to the press, I think, to try and separate them a little bit and to try and sort of make sure that this doesn't go any further than maybe it already has.
To drive a wedge between them. But, he needs her and she needs him. And so there is a codependence there. This is not going to end well, Ron. Let me just
it
start
could be
by
just
saying
like a
that.
caretaker kind of relationship.
Yeah, she's a carer, clearly. But, if she's kind of evangelical and she is convinced that he saved her life and that he's like a daddy figure, and he's also controlling her as a through narcissistic abuse, I mean, these two are going to be inseparable until, the oxygen supply runs out. We have to take a quick break, but I want to come back and talk about the aircraft carrier scandals. There are several. We'll look at that video that you mentioned earlier of Trump wandering around, pulling the press with him, looking at the ballroom and the building site and just being completely unhinged. All that and a whole lot more next on Uncovered. You know what I do for a living? I read and watch the things nobody should have to, and I've developed a pretty well-calibrated detector for people trying to sell you something that isn't what it claims to be. So take it seriously when I say chapter passed. Medicare is a mess by design. Hundreds of plans, constant fine print, and lots of agents who are paid more to place you in certain plans, which is exactly the kind of incentive structure that should make you suspicious. Chapter is the only Medicare advisor that compares every plan nationwide, and they're honest, not paid to push one plan over another. If your current plan is actually your best option, they'll tell you that and hang up. No upsell, no runaround. Their help is free, takes under 20 minutes, and has saved people an average of $1,100 a year. If you're on Medicare or getting close to 65, skip the sales pitches. Call Chapter at 318-488-4937. My skepticism has been thoroughly applied, so yours doesn't have to be. That's 318-488-4937. I've hit this weird stretch at my age where things that used to be easy suddenly aren't. Get exhausted all day, lie awake at night, became more irritable, less motivated, and just mentally drained. And I'm thinking, what's going on? Then I learned about how much cortisol, your body's stress hormone, can affect the way you feel when stress stays elevated. Between work, screens, deadlines, and everything else, it can feel like your body never really shuts off. That's when I started taking Mars Men. I like that it's designed to support healthy testosterone levels while also helping your body manage cortisol. No synthetic hormones or weird stimulants, just a clean formula. Personally, I've noticed a steadier sense of energy, better overall mood, and I feel more like myself again. It's also made in the USA and third-party tested. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Welcome back to the pack. Let's talk, Ron, about these candidates, or certainly Darlene Graham, who has been endorsed by Donald Trump, of course, and flopped in the Senate debate. I've got a couple of clips. Just set it up for us.
The fact that he grabbed her to take her brother's place, Lindsey Graham, in the Senate temporarily was one thing. I think that there were a lot of Republicans in the Senate and in Congress who didn't mind her taking over Lindsey Graham's seat for a month and a half or 2 months until they had the special election to fill it full time. But then when he then went further and endorsed her to serve an actual full 6 years and possibly even 20 or 30 years, because once a Republican gets elected to the Senate in South Carolina, they pretty much, historically speaking, stay as long as they want and never lose re-election. And she's not very old. I think that alarmed a lot of them, because a lot of them were like, we don't know anything about her. We have no idea. I mean, Lindsey was always a little bit shaky on a few issues for us. And now we know nothing about this woman. We don't know where she stands on anything.
Right. It seemed a bit weird, didn't it?
And what we know is that Trump believes, I mean, it's kind of a Natalie Harp situation. Trump believes that he can control her. Trump wants people in the Senate who he has complete control over, who will do whatever he says and will never question him and will never criticize him.
Right.
So he ends up endorsing this person. And I think a lot of the Republicans in South Carolina are very concerned. And so they have the first debate last night, and it was a disaster. And it's quite clear that she knows absolutely nothing about nothing. So, and she's running against Ralph Norman, who isn't very much better.
Right.
So I think that the South Carolina Republican Party is in a real dilemma right now, which is they have this woman who clearly doesn't know anything about any of the issues that are important. It's an incredibly important position, United States Senate. She's running for a 6-year term. And the only alternative is this cranky old bastard, Ralph Norman, who has been a constant thorn in the side of the Republican establishment and Donald Trump, for that matter.
Yeah.
He criticized Trump many times. So he typically always votes for the agenda in the end, but he's been like this Tom Tillis type figure where he is constantly complaining and griping about things and annoying Trump, although he ultimately in the end always votes for him. So it was just a mess, but it also shows how reckless Donald Trump is and how little he thinks of the voters of South Carolina, that he would put this person forward to be their senator for the next 6 years who doesn't know anything.
I think sometimes we give him too much credit for at least thinking about anything. Everything is done on a whim. Everything is done in the moment. There's no planning, and this is what you end up with.
Senator, if you want to respond, or we can move on. It's your choice.
That's okay. We'll move on.
Okay, we'll move on. All right. Okay.
Go ahead.
On the national security question as well, Senator, are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States? If so, why?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question?
Are Taiwan and the South China Sea national security issues for the United States, and if so, why or how?
I'm just going to be honest here. I'm not on national security. I'm not that informed on national security, but I do support the military. My brother was in the Air Force for 33 years, so I will do everything I can to support the military. My dad was in the Army. I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
Congressman, I'll give you a chance to respond, and I'm sure he recognizes that...
Taiwan's a definite ally, And, we have a trading relationship with them that is beneficial to the United States, chips being one of them, and others. So what the president is doing right is he's enabling Taiwan to defend themselves against China. But it's peace through strength that he's showing with Iran that China, Russia, others are looking at it so that they don't want to deal with America, and that's why they haven't attacked Taiwan. If they had some weak Democrat in office like Biden or another Obama, yeah, they'd take it over. But we can't let that happen. We got to take a strong, a peace through strength is working.
I'd like to know what her area of expertise is, if it's not national security.
I mean, her career was like helping disabled people find employment, which
Great.
was quite honorable.
Run with that.
She should continue to do that
Yeah.
because that's where her obvious expertise lies. But
Right.
I was just thinking, like, I don't know which answer was worse there. I mean, it's like she was at least honest. She was like, I don't know anything about Taiwan.
Right. Whereas Ralph was
I couldn't
riffing.
find it on a map, and I don't really know anything about foreign policy, but I support the military.
Yeah.
And then you have, so I mean, at least she's honest, but then you have Ralph Norman who gets up there and he clearly doesn't know anything either, but he tries to BS his way. He talks about, hitting his talking points like, oh, they manufacture chips and Trump attacking Iran has really showed China not to mess with Taiwan.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something about Trump is having Taiwan defend themselves now. I mean, it's how do you do that? By moving the last aircraft carrier we had in the Pacific out to the Middle East?
Yeah. Good move.
Okay. I guess that teaches Taiwan a lesson. They're going to have to defend themselves. I mean, both answers that's what I mean when I say Trump has put forward her when it's like a Herschel Walker situation in Georgia all over again.
Yes.
Where there were many qualified Republicans who knew a lot. And if Trump had endorsed them and backed them instead of Herschel Walker, they might have won that Senate seat.
Right, but he can't control them.
But and the same thing is happening in South Carolina, where you're going to end up with, it's going to be really hard for a Democrat to win there, but you'd end up with Ralph freaking Norman in the Senate, who's not a whole lot better. So it's just, it goes to show you how little Trump thinks about the Senate or the voters of that state.
And how little Darlene knows about the population in South Carolina. This is her claiming there are 50 million people in South Carolina, when in fact there are just 5.5 million.
50 million people in South Carolina. Half of them live paycheck.
Half of the 50, that's 25 million people living paycheck to paycheck in South Carolina. Did anybody pick her up on that, or did they just let it slide?
No, they just let it go. They moved on. So, I mean, it was just one thing after another. You got 50 million people in South, I get she doesn't know much about foreign policy, but you would think that she would know a little bit about the state that she's lived in her entire life. I think what it was is maybe she had all these notes written down, and the population of
they crammed
South
her.
Carolina is 5.5 million. So maybe she just didn't see the decimal point.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, but what a mess.
It's quite possible. I mean, in her defense, getting up on those stages to do that type of thing is really hard. And we saw this with Tim Walz, didn't we? He kind of fell apart when he was doing debates, despite being an excellent speaker otherwise. So, it's important we remember, just from a humane perspective, that it's very hard to do these things. But at the same time, you shouldn't get the job just because you're Lindsey Graham's sister.
I also say she could be very much a stealth person here. She could end up winning this seat and turn out to be like a closet Democrat even, or just vote with the Democrats on a lot of domestic policy issues.
Yeah.
I could definitely see her becoming like their Fetterman, because they don't know a whole lot about her.
Yeah. And she don't know a lot about
and
it
Trump's
either.
not going to be on the scene for her whole term in the Senate. So maybe she's just saying a lot of these things now to try and play ball. But once she gets in the Senate, she's going to do something completely different. So I would definitely prefer to see her win over Ralph Norman, because I know who Ralph Norman is and what he's all about, but I don't know anything about her, and I don't think very many people do. We have no idea how she's going to handle a lot of these votes.
Well, people didn't know much about her brother either. So, this is the thing. He was an anomaly, to say the very least. And potentially poisoned by the Russians as well. That story's just disappeared completely, hasn't it? Where's the autopsy? Where's the people calling for an investigation into the death of him? Why has that gone so quiet?
Yeah, because we have so many other things going on.
I know.
Can't even keep up.
Yeah, if somebody dies, there's fewer people to worry about. Let's talk about South Korea for a moment, because we should remind people that South Korea is an ally of the United States, an ally of much of the allies of the former allies of the United States, of Europe and everybody else. Things have changed drastically since Donald Trump made the most insane announcement. And these announcements that he's made with regard to not just the drawing down of these exercises in South Korea to protect them from North Korea, of course, but also, as you said earlier, moving this aircraft carrier into the opposite direction, suggests that he is just completely, in terms of from an operational perspective in national and international security, he has completely lost it. I'll read the tweet that he posted. Based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I'm not happy with the fact that the United States has long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States, as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. Therefore, and based on the fact that it's too late to cancel, I've instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they said no thanks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, these two issues are not really connected, and I want to remind people that Trump is convinced that, not saying that South Korea is in NATO, but NATO countries should be supporting him in Iran, when the whole point of NATO is that they only come to the defense of a NATO nation when that nation is attacked by another nation. And in this case, Trump has attacked Iran. So no other country has any onus or pressure to come and help America in this instance. Let's talk about this relationship with Kim Jong, which he thinks is more sacred than the relationship that the United States has had with South Korea for decades.
Well, first of all, in this particular situation, I think him invoking Kim Jong-un is a red herring. It has nothing to do with his motives behind this. Okay. In fact, I think that all the reporting is he has had very little contact, if any, with Kim during this term. Yes. That was something that he was incredibly interested in, for some reason, developing a relationship in term one. Yeah. He doesn't seem especially interested in that term two. But I think there's a lot of other things going on. Let me just say this. These joint exercises with South Korea have gone on every single year since 1974. So he is talking about, for the first time ever in all that time, canceling these exercises. I participated in these exercises as a Marine in 1987. So these are where the U.S. Army does war games and trains for over a month with their counterparts in the Korean Army. The U.S. Marines, as I was, worked with the Korean Marines. Every single day we did things together. We trained together, all of that kind of stuff. So you get to know each other. You get to learn about each other. You build camaraderie. You build rapport. These exercises are extremely important. Why? Because South Korea, setting aside all the trading relationships and all that, South Korea is one of, if not the most important military ally of the United States in the Pacific. Because why? Because Japan really doesn't have a military anymore since World War II. Their military budget is minuscule. They are not allowed to, according to their own constitution after World War II, they're not allowed to even station Japanese troops on foreign soil. So when you look at the other countries in the Pacific that are allied with the United States, I mean, we have Taiwan and we have South Korea and we have Australia and New Zealand. And that's basically our network of countries that have sizable militaries that are allied with this. So to take one of these pieces off the board, and they're a check not only on North Korea, but also on China. And to take one of these incredibly important pieces off the board and just alienate the relationship for no reason whatsoever makes no sense to me. What he apparently there's two things that he's hung up on. It has nothing to do with Kim Jong-un and his relationship. Number one is the fact that in his first term, he demanded that South Korea pay the United States for these to protect them, like almost like a mob boss,
right? Charging
protection money that because we help you and we have these joint relationships, you have to pay us money. And he tried to charge them. He did charge them $3 billion a year in term one, which Biden immediately ended as soon as he took office.
Right.
Now Trump wants $10 billion from them. $3 billion in term. Now I want $10 billion a year for the. This relationship benefits us as much as them. It's why it's collective security. We have military bases on their soil. We have naval bases, air bases that are extremely valuable to us on their soil that they grant to us. It's a mutual relationship that benefits both parties, not to mention the incredible trade relationship that we have with them. So Trump is trying to extort money out of them. So I think that that's one reason behind this. The other reason behind this is, according to him, that he asked them for help because they get a lot of their oil through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And he asked them for military help with Iran. And of course, South Korea is like, we have a somebody on our doorstep that hates us who has nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
We don't have time to mess around in Iran.
Yeah.
The other side of the world. So they turned him down along with many other countries. So this has him miffed. It's like, we help defend you, but you wouldn't help me with my war. Well, nobody else would either. So that appears to be the two main issues here is one, he wants protection money, and two, he's mad that they wouldn't help him with Iran.
Because he's entirely transactional. And, you know, the humanity that you and I take for granted, where if someone does a kind gesture for you, or you just trust each other, or you respect each other's time, or you respect each other's efforts, he doesn't have any of those aspects to his personality. He literally does not understand anything. And it has to be a transaction. It has to be, or an extraction, or it has to be, as you described, some kind of extortion that gives him a little bit of pleasure. To know that he's won and he's stolen something from someone and someone is suffering, and that's how this particular narcissist gets his pleasure, through other people's
because he wants to be able to brag about that when he gives his speeches. He wants to be able to say, Biden didn't get any money from them and I did.
Because he has no policies, so he has to then use this kind of collateral instead of policies. Let's look at the clips of him in the... it looks like he's in a Russian palace, but apparently he's in the Oval Office being asked about South Korea.
South Korea has been protected by us for many, many years. And during my first term, they agreed to pay close to $3 billion a year for protection because we don't, they essentially weren't paying. And I asked them to do that at my request. I said, not right. They weren't happy about it, but they agreed. I asked for $10 billion, and they were very unhappy. But we agreed for a short term that it would be $3 billion, and next year it would go up, and the next year it would go up, so they start paying for their protection. When the election was rigged and I ended up watching for 4 years and then coming back, I watched Biden rescind that $3 billion a year for whatever reason. When I called recently the president of South Korea, who I like, I think he's very nice actually, but I called him, I said, would you like to give us a little hand? We don't need help with Iran, but if you'd like, give us a hand with Iran. He said, no thanks. And I said, wait a minute, we have 39,000 soldiers over there guarding you from Kim Jong-un, your next door neighbor, and you're not going to help us on a very easy military operation in Iran? That's strange. No, we'd rather not get involved. I say, well, why are we involved in helping you? So, and I want to help them, but, you know, when you ask somebody, would you like to give us a hand, and they say, no thanks, and then we're guarding them from a country and paying ourselves billions of dollars, it's costing us billions and billions of dollars to protect not only them, but other countries. Look at NATO. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars protecting Europe from Russia. Hundreds of billions, mostly from Russia, but from other things too. And then they say, well, they don't want to get involved with guarding the Strait, where they get most of their oil. They get 50% of their oil, and they don't want to get involved. Why are we doing it? So all I want is fairness. And South Korea, I get along with them very well, but they were paying $3 billion a year, and then they convinced Biden that I was probably a bad person and they shouldn't, and he immediately rescinded that order. So we were getting paid. We would have been getting paid a lot more, but we can't go around and protect all of these countries, especially when they're not there to help us.
Yes, you can, because you're the United States of America. I mean, this is the fundamental thing that's missing from him, because he doesn't have a soul. He's never had friendships. He's never really doesn't understand the world, through the lens that most people see it. That there has to be some transaction, I just see him so broken now, Ron. I mean, I don't feel sorry for him, but he is so broken. He has nothing to offer anybody, any nation or himself.
He doesn't understand how beneficial it is to the United States, economically,
right,
security-wise, military, to have all of these alliances, relationships, and bases around the world to project power, to project influence. It benefits the United States. It is what has made us the number one economy in the world.
Yeah.
Before World War II, we did not have those relationships. We did not have bases overseas. We did not have the same level of alliances around the world, and we were not nearly as strong or powerful or as big of an economy.
Popular.
It is our ability to project military power around the world, which comes from a lot of these alliances. That is the reason why we are the country that we are today. And if those go away, it's not gonna just hurt the countries that we are allied with. It's gonna hurt us.
Yes.
But he has no ability to comprehend that, because he's just someone who is a black and white transactionalist. You give me, I do this, you give me that.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand. He can't think in terms of a
because
broader.
there's no good.
He doesn't have a broader strategic mind. He has a tactical mind, not a strategic mind.
Well, he also doesn't think critically. He doesn't read, doesn't understand the history of it. But also, this is destabilizing the whole world. I mean, he lied later on in that clip, which we don't have. He was asked if Kim Jong, because he wants trying to arrange this summit with Kim Jong, right? He wants to meet up with him again. And he lied and said that, he had spoken to Kim Jong.
Yeah.
There was a line of communication, but there wasn't. There's been, and you can see him lying, because he stops and thinks about it for a second, doesn't he? And he's like, have I?
Because he's asked, pinned down specifically, he said,
yes.
Have you talked to him recently?
Yes.
And he goes, the question caught him off guard.
Correct.
And he goes, he doesn't want to, well, I don't want to say no, because I just put out this True Social post about how we have this close relation. So he's like, actually I have.
Yeah.
Like the most obvious 8th grade kid lying about
100%.
Not doing his homework
100%
is how he reacted.
And just before you and I came on the air, because this is a live show, everybody, hopefully you appreciate that, Kim Jong's sister, who wields also an awful lot of power, although she's a bit of a recluse, somehow she issued a statement that said that she knew that there was no communication between the US and North Korea, and that she didn't know what Donald Trump was talking about, which I thought was brilliant. I mean, we are going to find ourselves in an accidental nuclear war with this guy when he carries on like this. And that's why we have to stop, because I know that we go to humor sometimes because it makes us feel better about how terrible everything is. And I think that's a kind of part of the human condition. But this guy is literally going to start an accidental nuclear war because of his incompetence and his laziness and his refusal to recognize that there is a world outside of his own.
I absolutely believe that Dan Kane, and I was thinking about this morning, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I thought, I was actually thinking about this. I had a dentist appointment this morning. And as I was pulling into the dentist this morning, I was thinking about Dan Kane. Probably not many people think about Dan Kane, but I was just thinking, like, I truly believe this guy, because the reporting has backed this up to some degree, that because he was the one who said, we have to stop bombing Iran because we're running out of missiles. He was the one who went to Trump and said, our stockpile, because Hegseth wasn't telling him. He wasn't getting the truth. And it was Kane that went to Trump and said, we have to stop because we're running out of missiles and we can't replace them anytime soon. And it's leaving us vulnerable in other places around the world. So I was just thinking about that because I think how many terrible, horrible things that has Trump and Hegseth wanted to do that Dan Kane has stopped behind the scenes. Because I do think he's like a slightly more tactful version of Milley. Now, I don't think he's like, I think he's complicit in a lot of bad stuff too. I don't think he's like an innocent person, but I really got to thinking, because it made me think of his confirmation hearing again, that I really think he took this job specifically to play that role, because he knew this was going to be a clusterfuck. He knew that this was going to be a disaster. And he wanted to go in there to sort of be the one person who is going to stand up and try and prevent a lot of this stuff. And I was thinking about it because I thought, if he ever sits down for an interview after this is over, or writes a tell-all book, or like Milley has done a little bit, we're going to really, that might be the only way we found a lot of this stuff out. But I got to thinking, I'm like, that doesn't seem like this guy's style. I don't think he will ever talk about his time in serving under Trump as chair of the Joint Chiefs. I don't think he will ever give an interview about it. I don't think we will ever hear a word from him.
I think you're right. I think anybody that is still in and around the Trump administration orbit, even with a role as big as the Joint Chiefs, is complicit now. And their complicity will have to be protected by their silence. Unless, of course, they can't be called to The Hague anymore, of course, because Trump's dismantling the ICC. So, we're running out of options for holding these people to account. But no, I consider all of these people complicit in what is the deconstruction of the United States as we knew it. And they're racing to get it done before November. This Project 2025, go through it, check, 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 literally like they are getting everything done that they wanted done. Let's talk about the USS Abraham Lincoln and the multiple scandals surrounding the aircraft carriers. The first is, of course, the conditions on the ship, which Trump is either lying about or doesn't know about. Again, you mentioned Hegseth telling Trump something different about munitions. And I'm sure it's the same here, that Trump is always the last to know because he doesn't read briefings, so he has to wait until someone tells him during a round of golf or something, or he sees it on Fox. So let's take a look at this clip of the family of a reporter saying family members of service members are concerned about conditions on the Lincoln. Let's see what Trump's response is.
Okay, what else do I have to say?
Family members of U.S. service members are concerned about the conditions on board the USS Lincoln.
Well, no, that ship is moving. No, they're not. That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship.
Has the deployment's gone on too long? Are you worried
No. Not nearly long enough. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Pure evil there. Firstly to go, no, they're not, to dismiss the families of service personnel. And then secondly, and this is how totally screwed up he is as a person, to hear that cry for help and then to come back with they've not been out there for nearly long enough. That's just tightening the screws on the cuffs. He really is made of very dark stuff, this creature.
We know that they've been at sea they've had their deployment extended twice.
Yeah.
They've been at sea longer than any ship carrier without a port call or without returning home in the history of the U.S. Navy. There were studies. This was something that the admirals spent a lot of time in World War II working out, which is how long can we keep ships at sea before the crew is going to come unglued? There's going to be psychological issues because, look, you can't explain to somebody who hasn't served on a military ship what it's like. It's not like going on a cruise, you know. I mean, the longest I was ever on a Navy ship was 2 weeks, and I couldn't wait to get off because you have to understand there's no off time. There's no privacy. You're surrounded. It's like I said, it's not on a cruise where you have a cabin. You're surrounded by people. Just getting through the chow line to get food takes a long time. I mean, your people are in your business. They're around you 24/7, and you never get a break. And so that's why these studies were shown about how long you can stay out at sea. And by the way, let's not forget how long you can stay on that ship without getting off and getting on land and blowing off a little steam.
Yeah.
And so there have been guidelines put in place for how long of a period that should be. And Trump and Hegseth have just disregarded all of that, all of those policies that have been in place for 80 years since World War II about how long sailors should stay on a ship without a break. He just ignores all of it because he doesn't care.
Yeah.
But take another factor as well. Their families. I mean, you think about this. These are human beings. They're at sea. They have girlfriends. They have husbands. They have wives. They have spouses. They have children back in the United States. They're missing their Little League games. I mean, think about that's a long time to be away from your spouse and your kids, a year where you haven't seen them. And I know there's people out there that say, well, that's the military. It's what you sign up for. No, you don't.
No.
You sign up thinking, yeah, once every 3 years or so, I'm going to have to deploy for 6 months or 9 months on a ship, but then I'm going to get 2.5 years back at home before I got to go back out again. That's how you keep your sanity. That's how you keep from getting divorced. That's how your kids don't forget who you are and remember who your name is. You have to, that's why we give these people the benefits and the early retirements and all that, because they give up so much of their own personal life that average Americans have no idea what that's like. To be deployed in the Middle East for 9 months without being able to get off a ship, without being able to play baseball with your son or play soccer with your daughter or go to a recital. For 9 months, you don't even see them. I mean, how hard that is. And so to be confronted, for those guys to actually come forward and start complaining is a big deal, because that just doesn't happen. And it goes with a lot of risk that these guys take, reaching out to their family members and saying, we're being treated like shit on this ship. We're running out of basic necessities. We're going crazy. For them to do that is takes a lot to get them to that point.
Yes.
And so when Trump is confronted about this, for him just to say, no, they haven't been deployed too long. In fact, they haven't been deployed long enough. Coming from a guy who dodged the draft as well and avoided military service and had somebody else go in his place to Vietnam.
Yeah.
It's just gross. And the fact that Republican military vets just can't see this for what it is because they're so deep in the cult.
Well, there'll be some shift. There'll probably be some shift with votes off the back of this, undoubtedly amongst military families, because they'll recognize, provided that Democrats seize this story and be absolutely clear where they would come down, on which side they would come down. It alienates Donald Trump. But, Trump gets off on saying that they haven't been at sea for nearly long enough. He actually gets off on that. Like, that gives him, because he's so broken and empty, it gives him a tiny little bit of feeling for something. as how he can happily bomb a girls' school in Iran and not make an issue of it, is because he actually gets pleasure from it. And I think it's important that we recognize that this is the character of the man. Let's take a look at another question of this story to him in the Russian palace.
Fake news. Be quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. You're a fake reporter, and you report fake news. Go ahead.
Mr. President, is there enough food on the USS Lincoln?
Yeah, it is. That was a CNN fake report. The Lincoln has been out there for a period of time, good period of time. But over the years, we've had them out there much longer. I was at a group meeting, and an admiral came up to see me over the weekend. And it was at a big group, and he happened to be an admiral retired. He said, I've been on ships that are out there much longer than that, sir. And I know people on the Lincoln, they say it's beautifully maintained and beautifully taken care of. And other people went out and they found out to be true. It was fake news reporting from CNN.
Mr. President, there was a report that a senior intelligence official with...
Yeah, it's beautiful, Ron. Beautiful on there. I mean,
this is what he does. He makes up these fictitious characters.
Yeah.
Who are always coming up to him, big, strong men with tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
You know, it's telling him how great he is.
So,
I mean, he's talking about he was at Bedminster last weekend he's playing in his golf tournament,
which he won.
And he did a fundraiser for a couple people. And this is what he claims, is that some guy came up to him who's a retired admiral who claimed that everything is great. He's deployed long. He hasn't deployed longer. We know that they are in a record deployment for the U.S. Navy, the most number of days at sea without a port call. So this person, we don't even know if this ever even happened. He never gives names of these people. They're always just these anonymous people. We don't know if this people is really an admiral. We don't know exactly what this person said, if he said anything. We don't know any of that, but we do know that it's not CNN fake news.
Yes.
It's family members. It's people on these ships sending emails and messages. They've sent them to us, to Midas.
Yeah.
We have published at least a dozen different letters and things that we have received from people on various ships. And we've kept them anonymous, even though we know who they are, because we know that that Hegseth will take retribution against them for telling the truth about what is happening. So again, it's so gross and disgusting for Trump just to say, some admiral came up to me at Bedminster during a $100,000 a plate political fundraiser, and told me everything's fine on the Lincoln. It's all good.
Is it true that they've said that the crew have to sign non-disclosure agreements if they want to disembark?
I don't know if that's true or not. I think I saw that was speculated about, that might happen. There's no way. I mean, first of all, they're not even really allowed to say anything anyway.
Right.
There's no reason for a non-disclosure agreement. If these guys speak out, they get arrested. You don't have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Active duty military do not have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You give up all your constitutional rights when you sign a military contract. You don't have Fourth Amendment rights. You don't have Fifth Amendment rights. You don't have First Amendment rights. You don't have any rights. Basically, you have very few rights. So it's not necessary to have these people sign NDAs. If they get off the ship and they say anything, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
I guess the only people that they could be worried about are people who are discharged, who get out of the Navy.
Yes.
Because you're probably going to have a lot of people on that ship who, when their contracts are up, which might be soon for some of them, can't wait to get out. People who may have stayed in before who are now going to get out.
And we should probably mention that there's been reports of some people actually throwing themselves overboard. And that's how bad it's got. We have a clip of a wife of a U.S. service member on the Lincoln reacting to Donald Trump's statement. Let's have a listen.
What was your reaction today? What was your reaction today to President Trump saying that, in fact, he didn't think the USS Lincoln's deployment has been, quote, long enough?
Oh, my God. I don't think the man thinks before he talks, and I was really hoping that at some point there would be a redemption. Try to redeem yourself at least a little bit with everything that you do and everything that you say. and try to redeem yourself. Have some sympathy, some empathy, take some accountability for what's going on with your military, your ships, in your war. It's infuriating. I mean, we heard what Hegseth said yesterday, what the president is saying today. It's infuriating, essentially saying that families are lying and service members are lying, even though the proof is right here on my phone. It is not fabricated. Nobody is lying. Everybody it's infuriating that they're not taking accountability and not.
There's a second part to this story. We have to take another quick break, but there's a second part to this aircraft carrier story, isn't there? And that is that Donald Trump has taken it upon himself to try and redesign some of the aircraft carriers that are on the way and to retrofit older ones, which, again, was the second of the kind of batshit crazy announcements that he has made regarding these carriers. So we'll look at that and a whole lot more on Uncovered next. The last couple of months have completely thrown off my routine. Between traveling, work, and just being busy, I feel like I've been grabbing whatever food is easiest instead of actually eating real meals. And that's why I've been loving Factor. They make chef-crafted, dietitian-designed meals that are ready to eat, so you don't have to choose between eating real food and convenience. The best part, you can have a meal ready in about 2 minutes with no prep and basically no cleanup. And they have over 175 banned ingredients, so their meals are designed around what supports a healthier lifestyle. They've also got over 175 menu items to choose from every week, plus new options and add-ons. I've tried many of these meals, and it's honestly made eating, well, so much easier when my schedule gets crazy. I use Factor, and you should too. Let's eat real. Head to factormeals.com/uncovered50off and use code uncovered50off to get 50% off and 1 free breakfast item per box for 1 year while supplies last until the 31st of October this year. That's code uncovered50off at factormeals.com. Uncovered50off at factormeals.com. See website for more details. Weight loss can be exhausting, not just physically, but mentally. You set a goal, try to stay consistent, life gets busy, and suddenly you're back to wondering what's actually going to work for you. That's why I've been looking into Weight Loss by Hims. They give you access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill and Wegovy pen, along with support to help you stay on track. With Wegovy at Hims, you can lose up to 20% of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It works by helping regulate appetite, so you can eat less and keep weight off. And the Wegovy pill is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, meaning there are no needles. The whole process happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines whether treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication is delivered to your door. You also get access to 24/7 messaging with your care team, plus lifestyle and nutrition support in the app. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/uncovered to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's hims.com/uncovered. hims.com/uncovered. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information and restrictions, visit hims.com. And you can find links to our sponsors in the description below. Okay, Ron, did you want to say anything about the military wives before we go on to the catapults?
No. I mean,
Okay.
I think she summed it up very well.
I think she did too. I was surprised as to how she was kind of laughing at it, but like I said earlier, I think we often have to go to humor to try and come to terms with the darkness of some of these subjects. So
think about it. She hasn't seen her husband in 9 months.
Yeah.
And Trump is saying it's not long enough to be away.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's so offensive, and it really, to me anyway, it just exposes, again, we're dealing with monsters. You know, Trump and Hegseth and, you know, Brendan Carr and Tom Homan. These people are monsters.
And by the way, when Trump said they're being rotated out now and another aircraft carrier is taking their place. Two things about that. We are moving the only carrier we had left in the Pacific, protecting Taiwan and other places, now into the Middle East because of Trump's blockade to take their place. That's number one. Number two, this is only happening because these families spoke out. It's not like Trump is saying, oh, I decided to do this on my own because I care about these people. He's only doing it because this blew up and became a national story.
And that is the way this government is run. They basically look at the newspapers and the social media, and then they make adjustments accordingly. Okay, let's look at him explaining that he went to see the Ford aircraft carrier and there was things on it that you didn't need. Who says that?
I came in, one of the first things I went to see was the Ford aircraft carrier. It was way over budget, and it had things on it that you didn't need, like it had magnets to lift up the elevators with 10 and 12 planes on them. Think of it. It had all sorts of modern day things that were all, instead of using steam for the catapults, they used electric. Let's have an electric catapult. And so when I went to the ship, because I came into office and the ship was way over budget, built in Newport News, unfortunately, was way over budget. It was going to cost $3 billion. It was up to like 18, 19. It was terrible. And I said, I want to meet the catapulter. And a man came over along with 4 of his assistants. And I said, what's better, electric catapult or steam? He's been there for 25 years. He said, steam is better, sir. We can fix it with a hammer and a blowtorch. When the electric goes bad, I have to send to MIT to get geniuses over here. I said, steam is better. Yes, sir, it's better. So why did they do electric? Because you can have the catapult go like this, but you can't put planes on it, sir. It takes you 39 seconds. By the time the 39 seconds is up, you have a full head of steam. And I love breathing that steam, sir. That's the cleanest air you've ever seen.
I mean, I'm speechless. The guy's a moron.
Before the Navy makes design changes to a device as important as the catapult on an aircraft carrier, years and years of science and testing and engineering go into it. There's so much thought from a lot of very knowledgeable people. And yet Trump, based on one conversation that he claims to have had with God knows who, could be some, who knows who he is, some mechanic on a plane, during his first term, by the way. This isn't even a recent conversation.
Right.
He's told this story for like 10 years.
Yeah.
This is because he tells this story when he's on his riffs where he's trying to convince his cult that he knows more about the military than the generals do.
Yeah.
This is one of his regular stories that he tells, along with like electric tank stories and all these other wild things that are also not true. So he claims that he knows more about how these catapults should happen than the Navy and the Department of Defense, because he had this conversation with some guy who misses breathing in the steam from the and says he can fix them with a hammer before, and now he can't. It's sort of like cars now, all the car mechanics have to know how to use very sophisticated things, computers, to fix cars now, because the cars are a lot better and more sophisticated. I mean, what Trump was trying to do is take us back to like the 1940s and 50s aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
So not only does he want now them to go back to steam, which would cost billions and billions of dollars to bring all these carriers in to change them back, but he also doesn't like the fact that the towers on the carriers in World War II were in the center of the carriers, and they've moved them back and they had very good, I'm not an aircraft carrier designer, but they had very good reasons for doing it.
Yeah.
But Trump said he doesn't like aesthetically how they look. He grew up watching the old war movies and they were in the center. And now he looks at them and they're not in the center. And he wants them moved back to the center. the towers. I mean, I'm sure that there was a very good reason for moving them that the Navy had. I'm not exactly sure what it is because, again, I wouldn't profess.
Well, I would guess it's because the runways got longer, and therefore
it could be
you need to be able to see the runway in order to be, from the tower.
I'm sure they had extremely good military and engineering reasons,
and they
but
did
Trump
research.
doesn't like how they look, so
yeah,
he's now ordering them to move them and redesign the carriers.
I'm very pleased
for us
to
to
hear.
pay for that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, it's just none of his business. I mean, can you imagine any other president in history just trying to claim authority over the understanding of the technical aspects of something as advanced as an aircraft carrier because of the aesthetics? I mean, he's just a realtor at the end of the day. He can't help stick his realtor fingers in every pie.
And it's also why, by the way, he wants, as part of his massive new military budget, for us to start building battleships again.
Yes.
Because
very useful.
The ship manufacturers said that they were going to name them the Trump class battleships, name them after him.
That's
right. Trump class battleships.
Got to build them. Got to build them. Never mind the fact that we don't need them.
Stop building battleships years ago because they're not effective weapons in modern warfare anymore. I mean, big, heavy ships with big guns on them.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even in World War II, they were, as we learned from the Bismarck, I mean, and the Hood, that these giant lumbering battleships are no longer that useful in modern warfare.
Mark Kelly, who really should be the president, who's a military man but also former astronaut, he's posted on X, "I've launched off the front of aircraft carriers hundreds of times, have a master's degree in aeronautical engineering and am a test pilot, and even I wouldn't suggest to the Navy how to engineer specific systems on its ships. Donald Trump should stick to what he knows best: ballrooms, bankruptcy, and bullshit." Never was a truer word spoken in jest, Ron.
Mark Kelly was campaigning with Ossoff yesterday, and they talked a lot about this kind of stuff. And a lot of people were speculating, that this is a future presidential ticket. In fact, they asked Kelly, what do you think about? Some people are saying Ossoff Kelly for president in 2028, and he said, "Why do you have Ossoff as the president and me as the vice president?" Right. Was Kelly's comment. Which I thought
Kelly would make
funny.
A great president, undoubtedly. But if you're asking for ticket predictions already, I'm already down for Ossoff AOC. I let that slip.
Okay, I'm good with that too.
You're good with that too. Okay,
I could be talked into a lot of different combinations.
Right, exactly.
I would like to have Ossoff involved in some.
Yeah, Mark
some
Kelly
way.
is fantastic, but he should be the national security advisor, or he should be
Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
Because we should go back to putting people with experience into positions that require their experience. We have to finish in a second, but finally, I do want to play this clip of Donald Trump. You mentioned it earlier, where he invited Newsmax to kind of walk around the White House grounds with him. Is it me, or was this completely unplanned? Because he doesn't seem to have any Secret Service with him. It's like he wandered off, like your great-grandfather at a retirement home just goes missing and you get a phone call. Let's have a quick look.
It's a million-year life. It's a very strong stone. It will never break. It will never leak. It will never do anything. This is the highest quality stone you can get, and especially for something like this, it's rated a million-year plus. That means it has a million-year life. Can you imagine that? It's 35,000 pounds per square inch. If you look at hard concrete is 5,000 pounds. This is 35,000. So nature is stronger than what the human can produce. It's really pretty amazing. It comes from California, from a quarry in California, and it's a very special stone. This is also used. This carries on out into the helipad. The pad is out there now. It's very close to being finished. The hard work is done. The beautiful work is finished. They're putting the granite top on. And the granite top says, "The seal of the United States of America." That's the exact term. If you look at the seals of the presidents, the seal of the President of the United States of America, meaning the President is in the White House. This is for many presidents. This is for many presidents. They will have it for a long time. Put in, if you come back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's in shock. But you come back in 2 or 3 weeks, this has all been redone. It's all been topsoiled. In other words, we put topsoil, brand new earth on top. Very, lot of good ingredients in that earth for grass. If you're grass, you're very happy. And this grass will look so beautiful. If you remember, it had big sunken areas in here, and it was pretty bad. It was in bad shape. Beautiful new roadway. They get out of the car and they walk down this path onto that, and they can have cocktails and everything outside of the White House, and then they go into the ballroom. Even the military, they can use it like that, and we have the ballroom is so much a military component with the drones and the bomb shelters and everything else that we have in there. So it's really, that started off as a ballroom. And before we started work, the military came to see me and they say, sir, we have an opportunity to do something incredible here. And we've been trying to do it for 100 years, but we've never had an opportunity like that. So I had to make that decision. And I said, look, go ahead, design what you want. And that goes down 5 stories. It goes down almost 65 feet. This will take any kind of shot. But it's something we really needed badly for the helicopters, but we get a secondary use, and that's, we can have.
Okay, I'm pulling the plug on him because it goes on for a while. I'd love to be a helicopter pilot, looking forward to landing on granite. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing, which is something we always say, Ron, is that why is he more energized about construction than about any international affair or domestic policy or anything that might make people's lives better? This is the only thing that gets him excited.
This is why I said he got so upset about the reflecting pool disaster.
Yeah,
is because this is more important to him than anything in the world, is his reputation as a designer, as a builder of buildings, as a remodeler of buildings. Yeah. And this dovetails into his redesigning the ships. Yep. I mean, he sees himself as a designer and as a builder,
Michelangelo,
an interior decorator. And he thinks that he has better taste than anybody else on all of this stuff. And that's how our president spent the day today. As we circle back to the beginning, this is what Ossoff was saying, wasn't he? That all he does is start wars and obsesses about his ballroom. That was the whole point of Ossoff's speech. And what is Donald Trump doing today all day long? He's wandering around his various construction projects in D.C. that we are paying for, not donors like he originally claimed.
It was interesting that he mentioned it's not just for me, it's for future presidents. And it occurred to me, when I was watching this clip earlier today, that, I mean, firstly, and hopefully, they will never complete this crazy ballroom and all these plans, and it'll get put back to how it was as the East Wing. And we can kind of rest easy that was just a mistake.
That's going to be up to the Supreme Court any day now.
Right. But here's the caveat, that Donald Trump, if he doesn't run in 2028, which the jury is still out, I think he will, you think he won't, but I'm looking forward to that conversation. If he doesn't, and he doesn't, have the power that he thinks he has, and he goes to ground and goes hiding somewhere, he will never be invited back to the White House ever again. He will never see that ballroom. No future president is going to invite Donald Trump within 100 miles of that White House complex.
Even a Republican, you think?
Even a Republican. It is done for that.
Say it's like President John Thune in 2032.
No.
You don't think Thune?
No.
Trump is still alive.
Well, if Trump hadn't deconstructed The Hague, hopefully he should be in there. But my point is that he is wasting his time on a project that he will never see. And I think that if only he understood that he will never see it, because he will not be welcome.
He definitely does not believe that.
Well, in the same way that he wasn't welcomed to...
and he's not doing this for other presidents.
Well, but this is the point, isn't it? This is the point. That's why I look forward to our episode of Uncovered when he announces his nomination to be the president.
But he's found a loophole in the Constitution.
Correct. Yeah. He's saying you're paying me back for the 2020 election when I should have won. That'll be the storyline, I'm sure. Okay, listen, we have to finish, but very, very interesting stuff. Don't forget to download the audio podcast. That drops later tonight. There's additional drops in there through the week with hot takes from me. Check out our sponsors in the description below. They enable us to do this show, and we'll come back next Wednesday and bring you another episode of Uncovered. Thank you, Ron.
All right. See you next week.